Dear Patriots, before the news starts, please subscribe to our patriotic channel by clicking the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up to this video. Don't forget to leave your opinion below in the comments section. Share the news on Facebook and Twitter so you friends see it. Thank you.
Trump imposes steel, aluminum tariffs with few exceptions. President Donald Trump brushed off concerns raised by fellow Republicans and signed a pair of proclamations on Thursday setting new tariffs on steel and aluminum imports and potentially triggering a destructive trade war with the European Union and other nations. Today, I'm defending America's national security by placing tariffs on foreign imports of steel and aluminum, Trump said at a White House ceremony with steel and aluminum workers, Vice President Mike Pence and senior members of his economic team. Chief White House economic advisor Gary Cohn, who recently announced his resignation, was also present, but did not appear on camera. Trump's authority to impose the tariffs is based on a rarely used provision that gives the president the power to restrict trade because of national security interests. After a months-long investigation, the Commerce Department found that imports of steel and aluminum threaten national security by undermining the long-term viability of those industries. The president's decision, which establishes tariffs of 25% on steel and 10% on aluminum, brought cheers from the steel industry and organized labor. Wall Street's hair is on fire over these tariffs because wealthy investors enrich themselves by closing mills and factories in the United States and moving them overseas, AFL-CIO President Richard Trumka said in a statement. Using tariffs isn't going to start a trade war. There's been a war on working people for decades, and we have been getting our butts kicked. Just look at southwestern Pennsylvania if you want proof. Canada and Mexico, which are in the midst of talks with the United States on renegotiating NAFTA, would be initially excluded from the tariffs, which go into effect in 15 days. However, to maintain that exclusion, they must negotiate some agreement to address the threat to U.S. national security caused by their steel and aluminum exports to the United States, a senior administration official said. The United States imports steel and aluminum from dozens of nations around the world, and Canada is one of the biggest foreign suppliers of both metal products. Other countries, including the 28-nation European Union, that want to be excluded from new tariffs will have to negotiate deals to address U.S. national security concerns about their steel and aluminum exports to the United States, the official said on Thursday. Some of the countries we're dealing with are great partners, great military allies, and we're going to be looking at very strongly, Trump said. We're going to see who's treating us fairly, who's not treating us fairly. Part of that's going to be military. Who's paying the bills? Who's not paying the bills? We subsidize many rich countries with our military. They pay not 100 cents on the dollar, in cases not 50 cents on the dollar, and they're massively wealthy countries. Trump, at a separate event earlier in the day, indicated he could exclude Australia and other countries from the duties based on their military cooperation and whether the U.S. maintains a positive trade balance with the nations. We'll be making a decision as to who they are, Trump said. We have a very close relationship with Australia. We have a trade surplus with Australia. Great country, long-term partner. We'll be doing something with them. We'll be doing something with some other countries. It was not immediately clear if the offer of talks would dissuade the European Union from going ahead with retaliation on around $3.5 billion worth of American goods in response to higher steel and aluminum tariffs. The list targets agriculture products such as kidney beans, bourbon whiskey, rice, cranberries, orange juice, peanut butter, tobacco and cheroots, and manufactured goods such as grills, sinks, ventilators and ladders. U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer, who will be in Brussels on Saturday to meet with his EU and Japanese counterparts, will take the lead in the steel and aluminum talks. For its part, EU said it will seek to be exempted from the new tariffs. The EU is a close ally of the US, and we continue to be of the view that the EU should be excluded from these measures, EU Trade Commissioner Cecilia Malmström said in a tweet. I will seek more clarity on this issue in days to come. Looking forward to meeting USTR Lighthizer in Brussels on Sat to discuss. mainstream business groups recoiled at the measures, which they fear will make it more expensive for manufacturers who rely on steel and aluminum to compete in world markets. Higher production costs will make American-made products more expensive and less competitive around the world, putting tens of thousands of American jobs at risk, Joshua Bolten, President and CEO of the Business Roundtable said in a statement. Our nation's trading partners can and will retaliate by imposing new tariffs of their own. Furthermore, using national security as an excuse to unilaterally impose tariffs opens the door for other countries to do the same, allowing them to bypass long-established international trade rules to gain an unfair advantage over American businesses and workers. Agriculture groups were also alarmed at the prospect of getting caught in the crossfire. China is a big importer of commodity crops like soybean, and farmers in the U.S. have already felt strained by a downturn in prices. We expect that these tariffs will cause retaliation that will come out of the pockets of American farmers. History shows that these types of tariff fights escalate with our trading partners and result in farmers paying the price in the form of higher tariffs on the products we export, Farmers for Free Trade said in a statement. The decision to move forward with the tariffs comes after a chaotic week in which even senior administration officials were unsure what Trump would ultimately decide. As of Thursday morning, a person familiar with the issue said White House lawyers had not yet finalized the proclamation that would put the tariffs into effect, and many aides were unclear if an announcement would even happen Thursday. Republicans in Congress have urged Trump to moderate his position, raising concerns the tariffs could hurt the economy and threaten the GOP's chances in the midterm elections. Some Republicans praised Trump for stepping back from initial plans to impose an across-the-board tariff without any exceptions. Exempting Canada and Mexico is a good first step, and I urged the White House to go further to narrow these tariffs so they hit the intended target, and not U.S. workers, businesses, and families, House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Kevin Brady, Republican Texas, said. But others were more blistering. Simply put, this is a tax hike on American manufacturers, workers and consumers. Slapping aluminum and steel imports with tariffs of this magnitude is misguided. It undermines the benefits that the new tax law provides and runs counter to our goal of advancing pro-growth trade policies that will keep America competitive in the 21st century global economy, Senate Finance Committee Chairman Orrin Hatch, Republican Utah, said. Senator Jeff Flake, Republican Arizona, told reporters he would introduce legislation to nullify the tariffs if the end result looked like what Trump has floated publicly. Despite pressure from his own party, Trump has largely resisted efforts to abandon the tariffs altogether, according to people who have spoken to him in recent days. GOP leaders issued warnings again Thursday on the economic ramifications if trading partners retaliate against the tariffs. American agricultural exporters are particularly worried that they will suffer. We're on the verge of a painful and stupid trade war, and that's bad, Senator Ben Sasse, Republican Nebraska, said in a statement. This isn't just bad for farmers and ranchers in Nebraska who need to buy a new tractor, it's also bad for the moms and dads who will lose their manufacturing jobs because fewer people can buy a more expensive product. Adam Bassutti contributed to this report. Trump on tariffs: I'll be very flexible with allies. President Donald Trump said he would reserve the right to raise or lower tariff rates on steel and aluminum depending on the country, as well as the right to add or drop nations at will from the duties. I'll have a right to go up or down depending on the country, and I'll have a right to drop out countries or add countries. We just want fairness, Trump said at the start of a cabinet meeting today. He also said the forthcoming tariffs would apply to Canada and Mexico depending on whether an agreement can be reached in the NAFTA talks. If we reach a deal, it's most likely we won't be charging those two countries the tariffs, he said. And now, the president said he will stick with a 25% tariff on steel and a 10% tariff on aluminum. Trump's authority to impose the tariffs is based on a law that gives the president the power to restrict trade on the basis of national security interests. Trump indicated he could exclude Australia and other countries from the duties based on their military cooperation and whether the U.S. maintains a positive trade balance with the nations. "We'll be making a decision as to who they are," Trump said. "We have a very close relationship with Australia. We have a trade surplus with Australia. Great country, long-term partner. We'll be doing something with them. We'll be doing something with some other countries. We're going to be very flexible," he said. But he added that the U.S. has both friends and enemies that have treated America unfairly in trade.